park was supposed to be quiet that morning, just a black woman walking alone, holding her groceries, minding her own business. But the officers didn't see a human being. They saw someone they could push around, someone they could talk down to, someone they could control. It started with questions she'd already answered. Then louder voices. Then hands grabbing her arms. And before the crowd even understood what was happening, the sound tore through the air, fabric ripping. Her dress, pulled, exposed, humiliating her in front of strangers who couldn't decide whether to record or look away. She didn't fight back. She didn't scream. She just stood there, silent, steady, her eyes holding something the officers didn't notice. Not yet. Because she wasn't who they thought she was. And when one officer stepped forward to push her again, that's when everything changed. Her name was Maya. Most people in the city knew her only from headlines, speeches, or evening broadcasts. But here, dressed in plain clothes, hair tied back, carrying budget groceries for the community shelter, she looked like anyone else. And that's exactly why she'd chosen to walk instead of using her escort that morning. She wanted 1 hour of normal life. 1 hour where she wasn't a symbol or a responsibility or the woman everyone expected strength from. What no one knew was that Maya had barely slept the night before. She'd spent hours drafting emergency funding plans for families displaced by a recent storm. By sunrise, she was exhausted, the quiet kind of tired that sinks into your bones yet never shows on your face. Even then, she smiled at the children playing near the fountain, held the door open for an elderly couple, and thanked a stranger who apologized after bumping into her. Her kindness was effortless, quiet, genuine. And then the officers showed up. 2 of them, broad-shouldered, chests puffed out like they owned the entire park. Their voices carried the tone of men who had never been told no in their lives. One tapped his baton against his palm as if warming up for a performance. The other smirked before he even asked the first question. They weren't here to protect. They were here to dominate. They didn't recognize her, not without the full security detail, not without the polished blazer or the cameras, but a few subtle things hinted at who she really was. The way 2 joggers slowed down, whispering her name under their breath. The way a mother paused mid-step, eyes widening for a split second. And the way Maya carried herself, calm, firm, steady, even as the officers closed in. She tried explaining politely. Tried stepping aside. Tried avoiding escalation. But arrogance doesn't listen. And the men in uniform had already decided she was beneath them. They had no idea how wrong they were. The questioning turned harsher, sharper, loud enough for everyone in the park to hear. The first officer blocked Maya's path, planting his boots inches from her toes. "Show me your ID again," he demanded, though she'd already shown it twice. The second officer circled her like she was prey wandering into the wrong territory. Maya kept her voice steady. "Officer, I've complied with everything you asked. Please let me go." But the steadiness in her tone only irritated them. Some men hate calm women, especially calm black women who refuse to shrink. A father sitting on a bench looked up, confused. A teenager recording from the sidewalk whispered, "Man, why are they pressing her like that?" But no one stepped closer. Fear is a powerful silencer. Then came the first micro twist. One of the officers snatched the grocery bag from her hand, spilling canned food across the pavement. They rolled under the bench, clinking loudly, drawing even more eyes. Maya's breath hitched, not because of the groceries, but because of the humiliation. The officers watched her reactions like entertainment. She bent down to pick them up, but the second officer grabbed her arm and yanked her back up. The sudden jerk made her dress slip off her shoulder. "Don't move unless I tell you to," he barked. Her cheeks burned, her eyes strung, but she refused to let the tears fall. "Not here. Not in front of them. Not like this." Inside her chest, a quiet voice trembled. "Why is fate so cruel? Why today? Why like this?" And then, second micro twist. A woman from the crowd stepped forward, saying, "Officers, she didn't do anything. Let her go." But the first officer glared and snapped, "Step back, unless you want trouble too." The woman froze. More people watched, but stayed still. The humiliation continued building like a storm. The officers started accusing her of resisting, then of acting suspicious, then of raising her voice, even though she hadn't. Their lies layered over each other, loud enough for everyone to hear, each lie strung deeper than the last. Then, third micro twist, a jogger who had recognized her earlier pulled out his phone to call someone, whispering frantically. Maya caught it out of the corner of her eye. A spark of fear and hope collided inside her. But she didn't move. Didn't reveal a thing. Didn't plead. She just stood there, silently absorbing every blow to her dignity, tears threatening, hands shaking, heart begging for mercy, unaware that this moment, this exact humiliation, was about to flip the entire park upside down. The moment that broke her came quietly. The second officer shoved her shoulder again, harder this time, forcing her dress to slip even lower. Gasps rippled across the park. Maya closed her eyes for a moment, steadying her breath, swallowing the humiliation like a stone. And that's when the jogger returned, sprinting. But he wasn't alone. Two black SUVs rolled up beside the park entrance, doors flying open before they even stopped moving. A cluster of state security agents stormed toward them, their jackets marked with the emblem only a handful of people in the state ever wore. The officers blinked, confused. "Hey, what's going on?" one muttered. The lead agent pushed through the crowd, eyes locked on Maya. "Ma'am, are you hurt?" he asked, voice trembling with urgency. The entire park went silent. The first officer laughed nervously. "Hurt?" She refused to cooperate. "We were just..." The agent cut him off with one line that detonated the silence. "You just assaulted the governor's wife." Everything stopped. The officer's smirk collapsed. The second officer's grip loosened instantly, his hand falling away from her dress as if it had burned him. Whispers shot through the crowd like electricity. "The governor's wife. That's her. Oh my God." Maya didn't raise her voice. She didn't gloat. She simply pulled her dress back over her shoulder with calm dignity, the dignity they had tried so hard to strip away. The officers stumbled backward, their faces draining color as the agents stepped between them and Maya. The commanding agent spoke again, voice cold as steel. "Both of you stand down, now." They froze, the same unshakable stillness they had forced onto her minutes ago. But now, it wasn't fear for her. It was fear of her. And the crowd finally exhaled. The officers stood stiff as statues, their earlier arrogance melting into panic. The commanding agent signaled for the nearby patrol units, and within moments, internal affairs investigators were on the scene. The same crowd that had stayed silent before now surrounded Maya, not out of curiosity, but out of shame. People whispered apologies, offering jackets, water, anything to soften the cruelty she had endured. One of the officers tried to speak, his voice cracked. "Ma'am, we didn't know." Maya looked at him, calm, composed, painfully dignified. "That's the problem," she replied softly. "You didn't care to." Those words cut deeper than any punishment. The investigators placed both officers on immediate suspension pending assault and misconduct charges. Cameras arrived, reporters gathered, and for the first time that morning, the park no longer felt unsafe. It felt united, protective, awake. A mother who had watched everything came forward, tears in her eyes. "I'm so sorry," she said. "We all should have stepped in sooner." Maya gave her a small, tired smile. Doing the right thing, even late, still matters. As the agents escorted her toward the SUV, the crowd parted respectfully, some bowing their heads, others whispering her name with a mixture of guilt and admiration. She had walked into the park alone and invisible, but she left surrounded by a quiet storm of respect. Later that evening, in a press conference, the governor refused to show anger. Instead, he spoke about accountability, reform, and dignity, values Maya had upheld when no one else did. And as she finally sat beside him backstage, he took her hand gently. "I'm proud of you," he whispered. She didn't answer, she didn't need to. Because sometimes the quiet ones are the strongest.